Start the recording.
Oh, okay.
The recording has started.
All right, thank you, Gail. Sally, would you like to begin us?
Sally at large. Oops, Sally Thompson at large.
Len Watson, Environmental Protection Commission for Hillsborough County.
Jim Sheridan at large.
Tim Horst, City of Tampa, feedback chair.
Yeah, and Gordon, TPA liaison.
Junior Corporate Planning Commission rep.
John Kubicki, member at large.
Brenton Mosier, USF, alternate for Jason Jackman.
Abigail Flores, Hillsborough County Public Works.
Dan Rodriguez, Hart.
All right, very good. Is there anyone online that would like to let us know who they are for the record?
Hi, I'm Griffin Norris
Yeah.
from the District 1 Administration Corporal here at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
And I'm Frank Kokenauer, City of Plant City Engineering.
Joel Yap with the Department of Health.
Julie Bond, Center for Urban Transportation Research.
Jonathan Forbes, member at large.
Chris Fellerhoff for Hillsborough County Planning, Community and Infrastructure Planning.
Suzanne Ziegler at DOT, sitting in for Jensen Hackett.
All right, anyone else going once? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, as I said. And then we can pass it over to Gail to make sure she's got all of her, the roll call finalized and everything. So Gail, we'll turn it over to you. Gail? All right, we can come back to that one whenever she's ready. And then we can go to public comment now. Christine, you've got the floor.
Good evening, BPAC members, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christine Costa, and I'm just taking a few minutes of public comment time to share some images and the results of recent World Car Free Day, which took place on September 22nd, just last Sunday. So World Car Free Day is a global event that happens in over 2,000 cities. This was the second year in a row that it happened in Tampa. I'll come back to that image. World Car Free Day is organized chiefly by the nonprofit Walk Bike Tampa. I'm a founding member of that organization. And then we had the privilege of working with some exceptional partners, including the TPO and the West Shore Alliance, Tampa Downtown Partnership. My consulting firm is called Pedal Power Promoters, of course, Sidewalk Stompers, and the City of Tampa. So I just wanted to share with you all and give you this information, and then give a big thank you and express gratitude for Jonathan Forbes, who I know is on the line right now. Yeah, you can. So
You're quite welcome.
Yes, I'm going to show your picture. So this was a citywide event, and this year we added, so there were 3 activation zones. Those are indicated in red on that map. And so starting on the west, we had Midtown from the West Shore Alliance. Then downtown, we had the Encore neighborhood. And then on the east, we had our historic district in Ybor City, hosted by Hillsborough Community College over there. And so we had, we also had, our goal is to grow this event and take feeder neighborhood routes with guides to connect to the main route. So we had the Heights meetup, we had a meetup at Live Oaks, and then down on the south, we had Hyde Park Village. So this was our route. You can see we're just capitalizing and focusing on the wonderful work that's been done over many, many years to curate an east-west Greenway, the green spine is what most of you will know this as. It is comprised in large part of the cast cycle track. And then if you see that right in the center of the screen, there's a little jog that goes north and south. That's Rowan Boulevard. And from there, we connect to Gray Street. And so this is also being described as the River to Bay route, because Gray Street does go all the way to West Shore, and it's a fabulous greenway in the making. So that was our whole route there. This year, we also had activation. Can we go to the pictures? Sure. We had, yeah, we'll just go straight to some pictures. So we also.
That's something I did. It is something I did.
Is it gone? Yeah, sort of. Oh, maybe this next one here. Oh, yeah.
Pause here while we figure it out.
Then we are back here. And there's no one here that has her.
What do you mean?
That help? I just don't know. People online can still hear us.
Can you hear me online?
Chris, if you nod your head, if you hear us, okay, then it sounds better.
Okay, I think.
Yes,
we're-
we can hear you.
Oh, super. Thanks, my bad.
Jill, are you able to participate? Is it working for you? Yeah, Jill sent me a message saying that your screen went out.
Okay,
At the
that's-
moment, I have lost my monitors. And so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm actually joined through my phone at the moment.
As long as you can hear us, that's pretty good. Okay, I think.
Right, and this is not a formal presentation, so I can just for public comment, it's probably fine just to press on, but anyway, Abigail Flores is pictured here in the orange, yellow safety vest. So I'd like to say shout out and thank you to Abigail for always being there for World Carfree Day and helping out. Is that? Yes.
I wouldn't have recognized you.
Yeah.
Excellent. There. And so shout out to Lisa Silva also. I don't know if that one's showing up. I guess my pictures are hard to show. It's-
Hey, Gail, I think your phone is unmuted. We're getting some feedback.
Well.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're having trouble loading the pictures, but trust me, I'll ask Ben to get these great pictures to you. Wanted to share that Jonathan Forbes ran point for me at the Hyde Park meetup. And so he and the other top volunteer there, we rehearsed the ride, we practiced what to say and how to make sure people understood the entire route. And it was just a huge success. And so thank you, Jonathan, and thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, the pictures didn't work out, Jonathan. They're on
So-
Facebook, right? Yeah, but I want to say thank you to the VPAC group also. All right.
Yeah, we'll keep working on McDill and Gray Street for you too.
Thank you very much.
What are they on Facebook?
There's, Walk Bike Tampa. And anyone who would like to know more about the programming and events that come up on Walk Bike Tampa, please just sign up for our newsletter. We don't spam, we don't do any promotional, we don't let go of your information for any reason. We just keep you informed. All right.
Thank you, Christine. That was a great event. I gotta go as well. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we had the eco counter this year.
Oh, yeah, it's about the.
It's fun to see this bike.
Okay, so with that, we can, Gail, did you want to do your roll call now, or do you want to wait? I know you're
Can you
having
give
some-
me a couple more minutes? I'm rebooting my machine.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just do it towards the end of the meeting. Before we head
Thanks,
out,
sorry
so.
about that.
Yep, no, take your time. Okay, and then we can talk about members' interests and future topic requests, if anybody has anything. Yep. Jim?
We have a interesting meeting coming up. Where I understand we're trying to fill an unforgiving minute with something to think about. And something that's been sort of kicking around in the background for a few years now is use of bicycles in disaster reaction. There's something called the Tour Disaster, which is an event where individuals and teams carry pallets of water on bikes, move medicines, things like that, carry messages on bikes, do all sorts of, get around where if you have to pick the bike up to set it over a tree and then crawl over it, get going. There's places there's actually one that's happened in Portland. And if there's any interest, I'll put something together on that for next week.
Okay, something to look into.
Okay. Because I think it's a timely discussion.
Right, yeah. Hurricane. All right, anybody have anything else?
Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission rep. I just wanted to mention that we have a few sections of the comprehensive plan for the city of Tampa that are in the process of being updated. So if anybody's interested, that includes the coastal management section, the housing section, and the future land use section. Those are all available on our website. All of the drafts and information are available. I believe our public comment is open, at least for housing and coastal, through October 4th. For official public comment, but you're always welcome to email questions, and any public comments that we receive will be included in our packets for elected and appointed officials. Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, John wants. We can go ahead and move on to the members' interests. I'm sorry, approval of minutes from August 28th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, sure, I move we approve them as written.
Just have one thing, Dan Rodriguez Hart, I was marked as absent. I was actually online. That's just the only thing that's.
Okay. All right, well,
Gail didn't hear
we'll
that.
pass it on to Gail, I guess, before we do the roll call. Yeah, Dan, could you be sure to reply me? And that's
Do we need a second? Second with the.
Yeah, did you second? Or
No, I was just.
Oh,
That's correct.
I see.
So I'll modify mine to, I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Second, Katrina Corcoran.
All right, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, motion passes, minutes are approved as amended. Thanks. Okay, so now we can get into our action items for tonight. We have, let's see, 2 action items. First will be the overview of the Access 2050 LRTP and open public comment period. Gina Torres.
Thank you. Gina Torres, and this is the clerk of the TPO. I keep forgetting, it's been a month, but I have a black eye that I feel like I need to explain to everybody that I see a little bit. I do play women's senior softball, and yes, I missed the ball, but the sun was right in my face. Like, it's been years of playing and I have not missed a ball like that. So I'm more upset about that. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I'm for you proudly to present something that's been 3 years in the making, and you all had a big part to play in different pieces that have been presented to you along over the years on our needs assessments and public outreach survey that I'm sure you've all participated in. So this is kind of almost the end result. We collaborated with our partners in the state. We followed all federal guidelines to pull this plan, this long-range plan together. It balances data-driven needs with a lot of public outreach. We heard about that, and we captured voices of the community. Our hope is that this plan will be adopted, or is anticipated to be adopted at the October 16th CPO board meeting. This committee meets, your PPAC meets in an odd time. So although this is presented as the overview of the plan, which it will be, they've already opened the TPO open public comment period at their last meeting, September 11th. So thank you for maybe offering that they open public comment, but it is open. So we're getting towards the end, and there were along the way over 4,600 surveys that we received, and it really reflects both an investment in staff time to get out there, but also that the community found these topics to be important to them about our transportation. We reached out to a wide range of people. I think one of the statistics here that's probably worth noting is that almost 90% of the survey takers either worked or lived here in Pittsburgh County. So they were very, invested in the outcome. We also attended 45 community events. Those are marked by the stars, so they were kind of spread out throughout the county. Rode on 5 different transit routes, gave it 11 additional presentations. We really think that we reached a diverse, both geographically and demographic representation of our community. The colors in the background of the map, orange and purple, were where we had the most number of surveys, and the green were the least number, but by zip codes. The top 3 priorities we heard from the community from the survey was number 1 was newer, faster transit, followed by reducing traffic jams, and the third was to maintain our roads and bridges in good repair. And I'm going to kind of show you in the next few slides just how that feedback fed into the cost feasible plan. Some of these slides may look familiar because you did in August receive a presentation on our cost feasible plan. So they recognize the fact that a lot of different aspects fed into the development of the plan. We did a forecasting effort to kind of figure out how many people were going to be living and working in Pittsburgh County. That was very important when you're kind of looking forward to making decisions about where people, how they're going to get around. We also had an environmental consultation workshop, which was really cool because this is folks that we don't always talk to, but we wanted them to give us feedback on some of those major projects. And we got some good feedback from them on how to continue to keep them in the process as we make decisions on these major road projects. And then the needs assessments. The needs assessments, you had presentations on them. Like I said, over the years, there were 5 program areas. So we kind of funnel our projects into these 5 areas. The first being smart cities, and those are kinds of projects like intersection, technology improvements like signal timing coordination, for instance, to ease congestion. The second, state of good repair resilience, and that focuses on maintaining our bridges and our roads, stormwater, our transit fleet. The third is business vision 0, and it addresses safety on our streets. So the projects in that category would be like complete street projects, and we really want to try to make our way to 0 fatalities in this county. The fourth is real choices when not driving, and those projects are expanding the current bus service and expanding our trail network. And the last is major projects. That includes road widenings, new or modified interchanges, and fixed guideway transit. And those projects are by dollar, they end up in this project, in that category of major projects. Streets widenings and fixed guideway are very expensive, so they're in that category. So based on a lot of input from DOT and our partners and the public and the TPO board, the revenue forecasts were based on the renewal of existing taxes, with the exception of the second local option fuel tax. So there were 4 taxes up for renewal, and our board felt like we could move forward with the ones that were needed, like the CITs going to expire, that we could renew those, except for that fourth one, they just thought that was gonna be asking the public too much and they would kind of fall maybe at that. But what this really means is this is a very conservative estimate. I'll have to tell you, like in 2045, when we did that 5, 6 years ago, we were making assumptions about the sales tax, so we had a lot more kind of money to play with. But this is very conservative. It is kind of trend spending is what we were guided by our board to follow along. But we're expecting about $18 billion to come to the TPO area over the next 20 years. Period of time for LRTP. Revenues are allocated based, like I said, I'm talking about that current trending spend. But it's worth noting that the DOT receives a big chunk of the revenues that we get in this area, and that's why you see the main major projects section of this graphic as being so as large as it is, because that is predominantly DOT. Local revenues mostly go to good repair, roadway maintenance and, real choices. So, this reflects those priorities and probably confirm that that's usually what the local governments are trying to do, is just maintain their roads and try to keep potholes and, there's a lot of needs, which as you will see, we have $18 billion. It does sound like a lot of funding, a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But the needs assessments that we did identified $50 billion of things that we really need. I mean, just to even keep up with just the roads, I remember one of those, I don't know if this is still the soundbite, but like our city streets will be paved every 15 years and they're trying to get it down. It should be every 15, let's say, or I'm exaggerating, but the needs are much higher than what we have funding for, which really means that we have to be creative. We have to go after grants. We have to use our current funding, monopolize. If there's going to be a project, maybe we can get in a safety project along with something. Sorry, it's a little downer a little bit, but anyway, I'm going to share ultimately what was included in the draft plan as far as those major projects. This is the state's intermodal system. You saw this presentation in August, so really I just want to highlight if there were any changes, and there were no changes to this. This is the state's limited access roadways, basically, and there's no change here. The only thing that was changed, which is showing this is cost feasible, is our board asked us to add Fort Hammer and 75 interchange on the unfunded list. So it kind of gives the DOT, gives the DOT an opportunity to study that further, but it's not on the funded list. And that's kind of a lot of the growth that's happening in Manatee County seems to be impacting that area of town. So that was changed from the time you saw this presentation in August. The NOTSIS, this is state roads that aren't on that limited access. It is not changed. There's several widening projects that the state posting. There's one change on the local cost feasible roadway project. Our board took action to add the Pinecrest to the funded cost feasible roadway projects. It is an expensive roadway project, so a couple of other projects had to come off, which I don't remember what those all are. I want to say they're not sure. I don't want to say what it is. I thought Van Dyke was one of them, but so anyway, we've added lithium Pinecrest. Just was both the board and the public, and actually we're very interested in adding that one. And the big stuff with transit remains unchanged with the arterial bus rapid transit from downtown the University area. That's considered cost feasible. Since this was put together, we are going to add the extension streetcar. That's actually happening in the first 5 years. It's already in the TNT, but we don't want to not show that that is an important project moving forward. So we're adding that. It's one of the comments that we got during this comment period. So that will be a change from the draft that you might have given link to. So those other 4 program areas besides the major projects, even though we are maintaining trend spending, we will hopefully see some benefits to delay and benefits to rations that will happen just because we continue to spend in those areas. I think this is positive news, and of course, funding, we can see more, more improvements to these areas. So, although this seems like the conclusion, I have one more thing I want to share with you, but the board has opened the public comment period. It's been open for 19 days. We've got about 2.5, 3 weeks until the 15th of October to receive public comment. What we've been doing, how we've been receiving it, like from, like you all. If there's a discussion now, we'll capture that in our minutes and in my notes. I have a spreadsheet that's getting longer and longer about what people have commented and how we're responding. Some of them might not change the plan. Some of the comments could change the plan. But I do want to share a couple of the comments we received because you might be thinking this or feeling this. And although I didn't drop it in, I have started to create a whole slide set on how we responded to public comment, since that's coming up in a couple of weeks. We had at Fort Hammer and the Pinecrest. There was three other things I want to share with you guys. There was a request to differentiate in the major projects that are what the TPO actually has influence over. We're hearing a lot from our citizens, the public, and our board members really, like, if we can't, and like, we'd like to know what projects we can alter and how can we allow the public to suggest major projects like the widening, let's say, or the transit project, and have those considered. And we actually did that. The major projects tech memo came to this committee in February, I think, just to say that we're starting this process. And then what happened was anyone could have suggested, we had a long list. I mean, we meet with the jurisdiction, like if it was a county roadway project, we met with the county, we asked them, should we model these in that regional model and see how they fare? And the county gave us other projects, so they but some were not work, whatever it was. We ended up modeling a number of projects. And then we developed this technical analysis, cost feasible, knowing if this is a good project to move forward, and then we waited with public comment. So we have given the public an opportunity, and maybe we should be more clear on that we would receive suggestions if you wanted us to test something. Another statement, I was going to say this from the last building, there's a lot of concern about the I-275 widening project, which is in the LRTP. It was in the 2025 LRTP as well. At the June TPO public hearing, the TIP public hearing, there was a motion made by a board member and approved to change the description of I-275 from an operational safety project back to capacity, so back to widening. It had been in there before the widenings in the 2045 is widening. So we are at the will of our board, and we've looked at this section of roadway as the TPO staff a lot and noted that a lot of the traffic disperses when you get past a bush or like bears, and that maybe, the widening isn't as essential. But this is the motion that came before our board, and they directed us to keep that in the plan. I will say some positive things about it. Well, only because I want to say some positive things about it. It does kind of give the BRT on Tampa, Florida, a little better chance of happening because the model shows that more cars will be on 275, and that if BRT can happen on this roadway, if it means repurposing a lane to have BRT on it, it's more likely to happen if that road widens. I know this sounds like I'm mixing things, but this is cost feasible letter of comment also came to this, and I-275 was on there. We commented as staff, and the board agreed that maybe this opens up an opportunity for DOT to help fund that BRT, or maybe we can look again at regional rapid transit, which had a lot of momentum several years ago. It was kind of supported by Pasco and Ellis that we have a regional rapid transit on 275. It was supported in Hillsborough at the time, so that kind of ended it. But maybe we can revisit that. Maybe it's an opportunity for something else. So we're hoping good comes out of this project that really is moving forward, whether we want it to or not. I will say, Councilwoman Hurtak made a motion to ask the board to have a workshop about keeping it in there or not, and that motion failed. So here we are left again. The action is to keep that in there. So that was how we are addressing 275. It's going to remain in the long range plan right now. The last thing was the transit, and why don't we have more of it? You know, this is number one on the survey, and our boards and committees and people are saying like, it's a lot of the transit projects, you can maybe confirm this, are not really ready yet. They're not really to that planning. They are still have a lot of planning that are still needed. The VRT is really reasonable, the extension of streetcar, but one positive, really positive thing was with the RIA Regional Infrastructure Accelerator Grant, 1.75 million has been awarded to our area. City of Tampa, I think, got it, but they asked Tampa Bay Partnership to kind of help lead that because it's a regional effort. And that's looking at financial, innovative financial techniques for funding and building some of these transit projects that we really want to see. So like the south from downtown to the airport. Those are the ones that we've studied a lot, and now we just need to get financing for it. So anyway, so there's some positive things on the transit side of things, but it just isn't, we're not ready to move forward with additional projects right now. And this was the cost feasible ones, the VRT. I think that covers pretty much the comments we've seen so far. We've got another 2.5 weeks, and hopefully you'll tune in. So you can leave comments here. You can leave them in person or virtually at the board meeting on October 16th. You can leave voice messages. You can leave us an email. And I'm gathering everything people say about the long-range plan and trying to respond. So that we're working on that now. So if you, what I'd like is, I want the board to know that you all as a committee accepted the plan is presented. I have a copy of it here, I have a link to it. I've highlighted most of it. And that you would provide comment as you see that, I mean, that could kind of be the motions of you to accept the plan and consider providing comment during this period.
All right, we want to have some discussion about this. Definitely a very important item, and as far as advocacy about what we do every year. And I mean, this is like every 5 years too, frankly. So I guess a couple of my thoughts I've thought a long time about, you know, where, well, I'll leave it to anyone who has comment before I share my 2 cents on it.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Gail, you mentioned that you're available now to do the roll call, right?
Go ahead and finish your discussion on this topic and I can do it between them.
Okay.
Okay, so John.
One comment, John Kubicki, for large, I was just gonna make a comment on, instead of using crashes, you could talk about Vision Zero and saving lives and serious injuries. Just how it was shown up here, it's talking about people reducing crashes. It didn't get the highest from the, what I would hope to see. But I think once you start talking about debilitating injuries and actually people losing their lives on our roadways, I think that's where you get more support from the public. So just kind of how you shape that, might get a better turnout. That was just a comment I had.
Anybody else? I guess I reviewed their report that you guys put out as far as your kind of analysis of the results, survey results, and I noticed there was probably, they looked like 3 or 4 projects in there that had widespread opposition is the exact wording in there. I'll read to you guys a paragraph. It says, on the other hand, there's widespread opposition, 61%, to widening Balm River from Clement Pride Boulevard to Balm River Road, widening County Road 39 from State Road 674 to State Road 60, 62% opposed. And the Florida Department of Transportation's planned widening of the Suncoast Parkway from Van Dyke Road to Pasco County line, 65% opposed. So I felt like it would be very, you know, reasonable for us to oppose the projects that the public has opposed through the public comment process. And then that discussion about the 275, I know that was definitely in there. It's definitely been a goal for us for a long time to advance transit in the area. And I feel like if we could support the 275 widening project, with the understanding that, dedicated space for the BRT line from downtown to USF is also, we'll say, carved out as a part of that, and maybe, kind of pair those projects together. It's like, that's the only way that we're gonna support that kind of project, is to pair it with the transit project and provide a, dedicated space for transit for that entire length of the connection. That's another thing I'd like to see, and that seems to me like a very reasonable compromise as far as, giving space to both modes and everything. I think that could, result in a success where the Department of Transportation helps fund and does that BRT project, since it is their roadways and their right of way, and they have expressed concern about capacity on those roadways. So, and then I guess my third comment, which I would love to see as well, is FDOT has literally hundreds and hundreds of miles of high stress bike lanes in the county. And, their design standards have since been updated, and I would love for them to take on projects specifically to convert the high stress bike lanes into a lower stress facility that's going to be more, we'll say, accessible to more than, say, 10% of the population. So those are my three comments. I'd love to see if we could maybe have some discussion on this and pass some kind of motion to kind of unanimously say these things. So
I'd like to move that FDOT pair the BRT dedicated lanes with any highway widening along I-275. So,
great.
Jim, sure, that motion?
Does anyone else like to second that motion? Any discussion about it?
I'll second his motion, Glenn Watson.
Okay. Thank you, Elaine. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
all those, thank you. And all those opposed, please say nay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim. Is there any desire to turn those other comments into motions?
Jim Shirk again. I move that we approve this conditional upon the expansion of the conversion of existing high-stress bicycle lanes to lower stress alternatives.
Thank you. Does anyone have a second to that motion? I guess that did include the acceptance of
Yes.
the presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, please? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Gina, does this document have any functional leverage about this bike lane issue that's being raised anywhere?
So that's an interesting question. The long-range plan is high level. It's a high level document. We're not getting down, very specifics, but it is very much supported by the Vision Zero categories and the real choice of not driving for this type of motion. I think it works its way into the TIP when that's how this project's become real. And I sort of like what you're saying. I wanted clarification if you wanted, well, you mentioned state roads and you were speaking, but Jim was less specific, and I didn't know if you were talking about state and local roads, that when moving forward with these, am I saying, hearing this right, that the state and local governments or kind of prioritize higher those high stress roadways and design those in a way that make it safer for cycling?
Yeah, definitely all roadways in the county. For sure. I mean, I guess.
That's right. I think it's a fine motion to make here. I think it's.
So it's a statement of conditional support dependent on a continuing emphasis towards increasing low stress bike facilities overall. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, I guess that I would hope that we could create projects to actually do these things, you know, to understand this is a need that's out there.
Yeah, I was just, as I heard it the first time, it was kind of, it sounded like trying to use this document to import on FDOT some specific projects on specific types of roads. And I didn't see the direct link between these, but if it's a statement by BPAC generally that we favor all agencies to continue to convert to as low stress as possible, I'm certainly in support of.
Maybe.
Perhaps we could talk about, maybe a little more specific and talk about buffered bike lanes, some sort of physical separation of the bike lane from the roadway.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it makes more sense to maybe not just offer it as a general motion as opposed to pairing it with the acceptance of the draft LRTP. Maybe say, you know, create separate motions, and then the final acceptance of the draft can be kind of, yeah, done separately.
And I'll modify my motion to say that we recommend that all agencies upgrade existing bike lanes and any future bike lanes to higher or to lower stress bike lanes, whether it's by buffering or widening or providing some barrier separation or providing parking or whatever, just to further separate the car lanes from the bike lanes, because it's really critical to get people to ride a bike if they feel safe. If they don't feel safe, they won't ride a bike. And we really have to get high stress bike lanes are really scary. I mean, if you're tooling along and people are passing you at 60 miles an hour, that's a high stress situation. And there should be some sort of physical barrier between the cars and the bikes at that point. Otherwise some bozo is going to be watching the cell phone and pull into the bike lane. And you know, absent machine guns, I think we're unsafe.
Okay, could you restate just your motion part of it?
Yeah, the motion.
Hold for a second.
Okay, I move that all agencies at the local and state, county and state level emphasize lower stress bicycle facilities and the conversion of existing high stress facilities into lower stress facilities where possible.
If someone likes that, then is there a second out there? Second, Dr. Vicky. Thank you, John. And then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed?
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say nay. Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, I got both motions. Share that with the TPO board. Like that.
Okay, all right. Any other comments or potential motions out there? All right, well, thank you very much, Gina.
Like just a formal acceptance of the report.
Oh,
like,
right. Yeah, we do need to do that. So thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
I don't even look at you. I mean, anyone else do?
Somebody, anybody.
I make a motion that we accept the draft access 2050 LRT. Forward it to the TPO board.
Want to make it upon our conditions or anything along those lines, or just good with the 600? Would you like to make an alternative motion?
And I think those will, I
Yep,
think that those, Gina's collecting those to also pass those to the TPO board, so it might be duplicated,
Okay,
but,
that's fine.
and also this was the training program, sorry, Gail.
Yeah, I mean, kind of however, I don't know if Gina or Ben would like to advise on
No,
process.
I will. Sorry. What? You haven't taken action yet on accepting report.
Correct.
that's where we are at this moment. We haven't received all the public comments, some changes that still happen at LRTP, so it was accepting the report. Making comments, which I've gathered is great. And hopefully those comments could influence a change to the report. We're gonna share them with our report. So this, we've got what we need for today, and it's kind of weird, again, with this committee that I can't bring you the final report and ask for your to suggest the TPO adopt it because the public comment period is still open. So where we are now, the motions that have been made are perfect.
Okay. And then I guess, before we go, I did have one other comment as far as, let's say, opposing the projects that had received a negative feedback in the document.
I think you did say that. I did want to make a point to you that it was really obvious that there were two data points, the public input and what they said about projects, and then the cost benefit using the model. And Suncoast is a perfect example. It was not liked at all, and it had the highest cost benefit. So it's like, how do you blend this? And we asked our board actually to make that decision. We provide them with that information, and they make the decision about what projects to keep in there. But it's not, going on record to say that you are siding or supportive of what the citizens said about those projects. It's perfectly fine if you want to make that decision.
Yeah, I guess, I don't really know the details of, what projects are justified from a benefit cost congestion mitigation perspective and which ones aren't. I'm just kind of approaching from a general awareness that, you'd think if people don't like the project, then maybe there's something wrong with it. And that's all the detail I'm kind of thinking of, but it's like if we want to create projects or say converting high stress bike lanes to low stress bike lanes, the question is always, where does that funding come from? So that's kind of was my thought with my comment of opposing some of those unpopular projects. So if, again, I don't know if we want to come out in that way, but it's something worth discussing, I think, for us.
I have a thought on that. I have a thought on that, if I may.
Sure.
I think that the cost benefit analysis needs to be radically restructured because it ignores a whole ton of things of adverse impacts on society and on the air quality and on human health and just any number of things that these expansions don't take into account the impact it has on human health. And we see the impact in terms of air quality on the I-4 and I-75 corridors, and it's an I-275 corridor. Frankly, this is not good for humans. And there's a breath of fresh air in that there's some migration toward electric vehicles, but still we have really serious PM 2.5, PM10 issues and I don't see them being addressed in the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
I see a tremendous human cost being ignored, and it would really shift the weight toward public transit and away from individual cars. And until that gets taken care of, I would hesitate to approve it.
I think the regional it's effective or positive in the shifting of roads and stuff. It's just, I think that's where the root of the concern is.
Could you talk in the microphone? I can barely hear you.
I don't want anyone to hear me. No, I think, and I don't know enough about it, honestly, but the regional model has its limitations on how positive it can be for, I don't know enough about it, so I probably shouldn't be saying, making assumptions about it not being very supportive transit or doesn't work well into the model. So there's things there, and that's where we get that cost benefit analysis from the regional model. So there's probably some room for improvement. I don't know how to tackle that.
That's an understatement.
I'm agreeing with you, basically, Jeff.
But realistically speaking, do we have any will our discussion have any potential impact? And the answer is no.
But you still can make it.
So anyway, I've become cynical in my old age.
Oh, you've been cynical for a long time.
All right, so
Anyway,
are we happy with those two or?
So I'd like to make a motion, and I think Jim, I can capture what you're
okay,
thinking about. I'd like to move that the TPO board consider the limitations of the cost benefit analysis when weighing that against the sentiment of the public.
I like that. Thank you.
When weighing it against public input.
So Len Watson.
We have a second to that motion?
Jim Shark.
All right, so we're ready for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed or
Aye.
abstaining? Please say nay. All right, hearing none, motion passes.
Yeah.
We still have
Yeah. Mine was just the general, whatever it said on the slide, which I think was, approve the Atlas 2050 LRTP. And we've offered our comments already, so just approve generally for it to go to the TPO board. And this is Katrina Corcoran.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I'll second John Kubicki.
John Kubicki, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say. And all those opposed, please say nay. All right, motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. So there you go, Gina. You got 4 motions to pass along to the TPO board.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna hang out just to help with like transition to the next person. But my feet.
All right, sounds great. Okay, so next we can discuss the October committee meeting.
Roll call.
Oh, sure, we can do a roll call. Gail, are you ready for that?
I certainly hope so. I'm going to ask for forgiveness ahead of time. I am currently doing a first-year foster on a future guide dog, and she's a puppy, so she might bark. I'm hoping no. But anyway, all right, let's start this. Tim Horst,
Present, in person.
Jim Shirk,
Here in person.
Katrina Corcoran,
Here in person.
Christopher Fellerhoff,
Present remotely.
Abigail Flores,
You're in person.
Corporal Norris,
Present remotely.
Joel Yap,
Present.
Elaine Watson,
Present in person.
Brent Buffington, Frank Coffenauer,
Present virtually.
Dan Rodriguez.
Present in person.
Who's here from USF outside of Julie?
Brenton Mosher in person.
Thank you, Brenton. Jonathan Forbes,
Present virtually.
Peter Davitt, David Aylesworth is excused, John Kubicki,
Here in person.
Faye Miller, Martin Santiago, Mike Disco, Sally Thompson,
Here in person.
Edward Newsom, David Solitti is also excused, and Jacob Brunel. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. We have an in-person quorum.
Has anybody heard from Faye Miller lately? It's been a while since we've.
I was just thinking that.
Hmm?
I was just thinking that, but I haven't seen her.
Because it's been several months. I wonder if she's still interested.
I should reach out.
Yeah. Before your call. Yeah.
All right, I think Gail's got that taken care of. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, Ben, I'll turn it over to you for the October meeting.
So. Well, our next item on the agenda is the lack of items on the agenda for October next month. And it's up to you, the people of BPAC, to decide how to resolve that situation. Let me pull up what we have so far. I think we do have one agenda item that we confirmed for BPAC. Oh. Yeah, so we confirmed a air quality report from Jeff Sims. But that's all that we have right now. And so the options that I can think about the top of my head are to cancel the meeting, try to come up with some member submitted agenda items, or we could focus on a single topic of your choice to just explore that.
Is there a time, I mean, the report, is it something we need to approve? And is there any kind of time?
No,
There's no-
just been a status report.
I don't see any point.
Yeah.
Could I throw out for general conversation what I earlier proposed about using or considering bicycles or the use of bicycles in response to natural disasters? Because it's been, there are other areas like Portland, Oregon, like that, where they've had actual events where they have competitions to, carry things by bicycle, to deliver messages, da, 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 da. And if there might be some interest, I'll put together something about the tour disaster for consideration.
Sure. I certainly remain to be convinced on that.
Okay. But I'll
I'd love to learn, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll bring it up. I'll put it together.
Yes.
It might be good just to push it because it might take time to confirm first as well. We definitely should have that as an item on our agenda though. And I've already written down that I want to start looking into different speakers, presenters on that topic.
Okay.
Because I would think walk bike, Tampa or some like other organizations that are involved would be.
Oh, yeah.
Want to be involved.
So I'll contact Christine.
I could do a workshop on behalf of the city of Tampa as far as like discussing, proposed neighborhood greenway routes with our bicycle facility that we're doing.
Cool.
We've got that done. I mean, that's certainly something that needs more public engagement to make sure that the proposed routes are, have community backing. We definitely don't want to do anything that doesn't, but there's hundreds of miles that we've kind of mapped out all over the city on residential streets and tell you what the projects would be, what kind of what to look out for. We're going to be doing a pilot project on 19th Street through like Belmont Heights, VME Bor, and Old Seminole Heights. So that'll be one to look out for, and kind of it'll be, say, the first of its kind. And then, yeah, I mean, ultimately our plan of public engagement is to kind of go through, like, meet with each of the neighborhood association presidents and, solicit feedback that way. But, certainly if this group has an interest in that and would like to be a part of that public engagement, then.
In public engagement, and I don't know where this would fit. I wish there was something to get bicycle courtesy out there, because I think a lot of bicycle riders give the whole thing a bad name when they start darting in and out, or wearing headphones and whatever. And that may just be something that's our society, but it certainly doesn't help matters with supporting bicycle riding.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I notice it, it's just, even walkers who are like on Bay Shore, who There are designated places where you push the button, you're supposed to walk across. Well, then there are people that are walking in the middle, they got headphones on and where you're gonna, or earbuds, where you're gonna hit them. But I don't know, maybe we're just an uncourteous society.
Yeah.
It doesn't help the cause. That's what bugs me.
And I had a question. So I was just curious, so for November, do we have kind of a stacked agenda? I just would think that everyone would want to take that into consideration, that if there's not a lot in November, then maybe we would want to push the other item to November and then have more of a full meeting then.
Yeah, that's, let's see.
Yeah.
Calendar, I don't, this was going to be an agenda item, but I actually don't. Oh, so, yeah. Is,
I'm sure. So.
yeah, there was going to be a planned city trail study, but I actually don't think there will be one now, so let's see, possibly a status report on the streetcar extension. That's about it, yeah. Just the meeting calendar for 2025 and streetcar extension. We haven't pushed the air quality report out to November.
Yeah, I mean, because last time I shared with you guys about what we're doing, what we have done at the city, I had 10 minutes at the end of the meeting and, like I would like to get more input from you guys and like you guys actually have time to look at it, think about what comments or recommendations you make and then, submit them to me in a thoughtful way.
Would you be able to take comments on that still in November?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering, because if there's not a lot in November, I would say that we push October's items to November to have a more full meeting in November.
Okay. Yeah.
So we would prefer to have a meeting in November as opposed to having it in October and push November? Or what?
So no, so the question is whether or not there's only one item for the October meeting currently. And we can either continue that and have that one item and potentially have other items, they've been, if I'm correct. Or we can cancel the October meeting and push that item to November. And my question to Ben was whether or not there were already a lot of items for November, and it sounds like there's not much right now. So
I'd rather have an October meeting and push the November because of the holiday and such. The last Wednesday in November is the day before Thanksgiving, so would we really want to have a meeting the day before Thanksgiving, or should that be the week before? Because it's 27th.
I think it's actually the 20th.
Is it the 20th?
At least that's what's on my calendar. The meeting is the 20th.
Okay, well, if it's the 20th, that's not that far from the end of October. So I could present on the county's Safe Streets for All planning grant. That's gonna give an update on that in October.
Yeah, we'll be talking about, Tim, you were wanting to do your presentation in your comment that would take the whole session. Maybe we'll do that in November as well.
Yeah, it doesn't need to take the whole session, just we'll say more than 10 minutes of what I had last time, so.
Well, you should, if you have it planned earlier, it won't be like everybody's looking at their watch running.
Exactly, yeah, we had a very full evening that night too, so you just put me there on the regular agenda and then we can have time for it. And yeah, ultimately I've talked to Abigail and Chris about this. It's the idea is that we could take this system of categorization and we could, send it over to Hillsborough County, get their buy-in and could have a whole countywide map, of this type is ultimately something that, I'd like us to work towards. So.
Yeah, is this from here, do we just ask which presentation instead of how would that work? It sounds like we have a couple of agenda items for October then.
Yeah, I guess so. It's absolutely gone.
Well, there was one on before, right?
One already, and then myself and Abigail. And,
The air quality report would be the third one.
okay, so we have 3. I feel like that's enough to meet. I mean, that way we can get out early and feel not stressed about, having to rush through things.
Are we talking about November right now or October?
October. So,
And when is Jim or gonna come back for the tour to disaster thing?
oh, yeah. Jim,
Is that gonna be
yeah,
November
There we
then?
go. 4th presentation right there.
Okay.
Jim. It's in there. He just convinced me.
Okay, well, I'll put it together and run it by you first.
Oh. you don't get it right.
Sounds interesting.
Okay, all right, well, that sounds like a plan then. We'll move forward with those 4 items. And then I think in general, I'd like to maybe have a conversation too about, I asked Ben about how much of the items do we focus on are in the county versus how much of them are in the city limits? It's like, where should our focus be is kind of the thing, and where do we want the focus to be? And yeah, I think there's a conversation there worth having as far as like, okay, I noticed a lot of the members at large were, city of Tampa residents, but yet the majority of our agenda items are countywide type of things or things happening in the unincorporated areas. So I think there's a conversation there. It's like, can we or should we focus our efforts, in a more definitive way, be like, okay, let's at least first get a good bicycle network in the city and then move beyond, or, I think it's worth the conversation on the focus.
Well, some of the streets in the city are state and county roads. So it's, there's an another thing I was thinking of is the county approved the updated greenways and trails plan, and I don't think you've heard about that.
Yeah.
It's the update from 30 years ago. It's the first from 30 years, so.
I think
Chris,
they
do
did
you
get a
hear me?
presentation about that.
Chris could give us a presentation.
Yeah, didn't he come by?
Spell her off.
I heard you. I
Okay,
heard you volunteer. I heard you volunteer me for a presentation, Sally.
okay.
Happy to do it. But it sounds like we've already filled the next meeting. So,
Well, I'm thinking
but
of
I'll do it
November.
whenever.
I'm thinking of November right now.
Yeah, I'd love to see what's in there.
This is technically an action. This is technically an action item. I don't know. Do we need a formal motion? I guess you could let's just do a motion to keep the October meeting. That would work.
Yeah, sounds like we've filled it up with useful things, so. Somebody.
Cancel it, but now it's already on there.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
there we go. Fair enough.
Okay,
That's a good point. It's already on our calendars, so.
I'm just here. It's an action item. Need to have action.
All right, well, I think we resolved that, so. Thanks, Ben. So we've got a couple of status reports. Oh boy, we really had them waiting, so hopefully they're still with us. All right, we'll see if they're there. The FDOT High Injury Network Social Marketing, with Julie Bond from Cutter and Emmett Duran from FDOT. Are you guys there?
Hi, I'm here. Emmett was unable to make it, so I will be providing the presentation tonight for you.
All right, thank you very much. You've got the floor.
But we can make you the presenter. Give us a second.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yeah, or else I'd have to stay
Okay,
here.
okay.
The guys are select-
We have
Julie,
some
you are
audio in the presentation, so I hope that works. If not,
Julie, you are a presenter if you want to share your screen.
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. I
It
didn't
should be in the
realize it was-
it should be in the controls at the top of Teams.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to share it. I thought you would have it, but let me. I just have to bring it up. So
I'm happy to stand here and go next slide if you really want to, because I have it open. Do you prefer that, Julie?
Yeah, I just didn't have it up. I'm sorry, just because I was visualizing it would be.
Okay, well, let's go with it.
I'm sorry, I can find it and bring it up.
I've already beat you to it. It's
Okay. Thank you so much. And I apologize for that. I would have shared my screen.
great, not understand.
Okay, so can everyone see that now?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I am Julie Bond with the Center for Urban Transportation Research at the University of South Florida, and I'm a senior researcher there. And maybe many of you might remember I was presenting this project before it began about a little over a year ago. So I gave you kind of a presentation through what was going to happen and what was in that project. So tonight I'm going to present to you how the project went and what happened with it. It's really great findings. It was a really great project, and I think you're going to enjoy the presentation.
Excuse me, Julie.
Yes.
Online, you're breaking up a lot. You might want to shut your camera off.
Shut that off.
And that'll help your bandwidth. Okay, great.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's see, next slide. And again, Emmett could not be here tonight, but this project was funded by the Florida Department of Transportation District 7 and also in partnership with the Hillsborough TPO. And the project is called Safety Outreach on Select High Injury Networks in Hillsborough County. So these were all in Hillsborough County. And we really explored the critical role that those high injury networks have in addressing traffic-related serious injuries and fatalities, all with a focus on Hillsborough County, Florida. Okay, next slide. You've probably heard quite a bit about the SAFE system approach, right? And I'm sure you've all seen this SAFE system wheel. It's something that guided our project, and so it's something that made a big difference as we went through. And so we were looking at safer people and safer roads for this project. So we had chosen 2 of those different approaches for this project. Okay, next slide. So first, if some of you remember the initial presentation, I talked about what HINs are. You're going to hear from your own Johnny Wong right now in a short video clip from our podcast. So if you can click to the video clip.
If that works. I don't think this worked when Sarah Hendricks presented this too, but you can see the groups here. Yeah, Julie, I'm sorry, you'll
not gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. I think we tried this.
Okay, well, I'll guide you all to the website at the end, and Gina was also there, and Gina and Emmett and Johnny did a really great presentation on what they thought high injury networks were. So you can listen to kind of his definition of high injury networks, and I'll direct you to the podcast. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where those were and why those are important. So next slide. Okay, so for high injury networks, or we call them HINs. So all the factors that you're seeing there, they're corridors with clusters of severe injuries and fatalities. These were identified by FDOT and the TPO. Some of them are county roads and some of them are FDOT roads. They're where the most fatal crashes are on roads posted 40 miles per hour or higher. And also then there were more aggressive, distracted, and intoxicated driving are just major factors in why those roads are chosen. So we chose a total of 7 HINs, and they're identified within the county for this safety project.
Right.
So the project took a social marketing approach. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our timeline. About a little over a year, I was talking to you about what we were going to do, and now we'll talk about what we did. And so this is a quick review of the task. We assessed our high injury network environments. We developed our social marketing campaign, which is not social media, it's social marketing. So that's a behavior change campaign. We pre-tested the campaign, and we implemented and managed it during 2023. And then we had a period of monitoring and evaluation. So those are the steps that we followed. And now to remind you of where the high entry networks are, you can see on this map. The first one, I'll just read them off. And Gina, you may be able to kind of scroll through them. I don't know if that feature is going to work for you also as you click through. Are they popping up?
Right.
Yeah. Great. Something worked. Okay, so the first one is 50th and 56th Street from Martin Luther King Boulevard to Hillsborough Avenue. And let's see, then the second one, if that will pop up, was 56th Street from Sly Avenue to Bush Boulevard. I'm sure you're all familiar with these streets. You may have biked, walked, or driven on them. Okay, the next one was State Road 60 Adamo Drive from Orient Road to Falkenberg Road. The next one was Florida Avenue from Waters Avenue to East Bougainvillea Avenue. Nebraska Avenue from Columbus Avenue to East Hannah Avenue. And then Sheldon Road from Hillsborough Avenue to Waters Avenue. And those are the corridors. Oh, 15th Street from Fowler. I can't forget that one. 15th Street from Fowler Avenue to Fletcher Avenue. So the last four county roads, Sheldon Road and 15th Street. And I also want to comment that we did walk and drive and bike on these corridors. And Brenton, who is there with you, worked on this project also. So he spent a lot of time with me and others on the project out there on these corridors, and he is there with you today. Okay, next slide. So first, Sarah Hendricks, who presented to the two other committees, she conducted a very intensive literature review. And so the reason we do that, we look at what approaches have been used in the past. We look at them on a national and international level. And so then that can help us improve on what our campaign is going to be like. And you also are going to have a link to the full report, which is about 200 plus pages, and you can read through that literature review. It's in sections. And so it has a lot of really great information about other campaigns. Okay, the next one. Okay, and then so just a little bit about the focus of the literature review that she conducted. So there's lots of great findings, and these are just a few of them. Her findings, she put them into categories. We had peer-reviewed studies, safety campaigns conducted by state highway safety offices with prescribed metrics, previous literature reviews of related topics, and government guidance documents for federally funded safety campaigns. So we really looked at these and analyzed them, and they were used to guide our project. And then some takeaways from this lit review. I'll go through these quickly. You can see that let's see, there was a focus on behavior, segments, and geography, and Gina, those are going to bring up some pop-up guides.
Right.
Thank you. And so those identify and target specific audience segments, problematic behaviors. If you think about our campaign, we did have certain segments, right? Because we were narrowed down on these corridors. We weren't doing this campaign for everyone. We had our behaviors, our segments, and our geography. They conduct campaigns at locations for the target audience you spend time, so work, school, and others like that. We pre-tested the campaigns, and so that's what we found from the lit review, that those were the most successful. The pre-test the campaign messaging and our interventions with the target audiences. Also, they monitor their observable behavior. This campaign was pretty quick. Most social marketing campaigns that are related to health might go over 3 to 5 years in time. So this one was pretty quick. They rolled out their campaigns at staggered intervals. They include and allocate time for their behavior observation strategy. And then you have to collect some baseline data. And so we looked at a lot of different campaigns that collected that baseline data before they actually rolled out. So that might have been the first year. And then also you have to measure that observed behavior immediately after the campaign and then 6 months again. And so there's some different opportunities that we found from their campaigns, and you'll see in our recommendations that we took this guidance and made some great recommendations if there is another campaign such as this. Then we conducted our situation analysis, which really we went out on each one of those roads and we looked at what was going on, because you really have to know, right, before you create a campaign, what's going on in that built environment. What is your target audience doing? What are your drivers doing? Your bicycle drivers, your motorists, your people walking, what is going on in that environment. Okay, next slide. And so when the corridors were being chosen, if you recall, these are the HIN corridor stats from 2016 to 2022. So you can see the fatalities on each one of those, and you can see the severe injuries. Now, I just want to bring this up, that crashes that weren't classified as fatal or severe weren't included, because you're probably thinking there were many more crashes, which there were on these corridors. But we were looking at fatalities and severe injuries and how do we reduce those. Okay, next slide. So this is these are some fun infographics. I'm not, of course, going to go through each one. We have 2 of them for each street. So as we were doing our situation analysis, we really wanted to dive in to those corridors, and we looked at, of course, fatalities, injuries, hit and run. You can see we looked at how far from home did the person who was injured or killed live, and how far away did that person who was driving a motor vehicle. We looked at time and day of crashes when they occurred. You can see we have all kinds of really fun stats that if you want to, you can delve into. They're all in the report. And Jean, if you want to go to the next page, the next slide.
Sorry. I jumped now. Sorry.
Okay, so and there's 2 slides for each corridor. And so you can go through and look at kind of the differences. You can see the age groups. And we just made a collage for each one of some photos. You can see on the top one on 56th Street, we were riding the bus. You can see someone is there with standing there at the front of the bus. We have so many photos, but we just, included just a few for each. You can see there are the sharrows. So if you want to just flip through each one quickly, Gina, and then, you're welcome to go back and look at these more in depth. So we did go out, and that's really part of a good situation analysis. I recommend this for any type of project you do. You need to know this. You need to know who the users are of the street. You need to know what is going on the street. Some of you I know in the audience joined me on some of these outings. And so it was really great to document what is happening. And you do need to know that for a successful campaign. Okay. And so this is another type of campaign SWOT we did. So this was for the campaign, not for the actual built environment. We looked at the campaign that we were going to produce, and we looked at all the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so if any of you have done a SWOT analysis, you understand how that works. But just to give you a little bit of what is on this slide. So, you can look at threats maybe to your campaign. I think this is the campaign. Some drivers may resist your behavior change you want. The campaign may not reach all of your target audience effectively. Some of the strengths we looked at was that road safety campaigns really raised awareness about safe driving practices. And then some of the opportunities, the slide has 3 or 4 each. There's many more, but this list just a few. Is we could leverage social media, websites, and mobile apps, for example. Those were some big opportunities that we found. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to show you some of the campaign tactics that we used. So we've done our lit review, we've done our situation analysis, we've gone out and looked at the corridors, and now we're ready to get our campaign in place. So here's some examples of strategies we used to reach the targeted audience. So we did geofencing for this campaign. And so if any of you know how you geofence messages, you're basically building a boundary, and then those are being served up to people who are passing through that corridor. Now, again, it's not going immediately to their phone as they are driving. It will pop up later multiple times on their cell phone, on their computer, on any type of device that was picked up as they were traveling through that zone. So we can reach people. And this campaign, we took some of these some of the tactics from, or the visuals from a NHTSA campaign, because it was already tested. And so we took their campaign that had been proven and tested, and then we kind of geared it towards, here locally. So those are just some of the messages. So that was their tested campaign, like driving faster can lead to disasters, speeding catches up with you. And it all went along with the larger campaign also. Okay, next slide. So the campaign total served up about 10 million impressions. And so, impressions are those served up that people could see. It's good to know how many there are, but then the results that you see from those impressions are what's important. So we had over 20,000 people click on the messages that were served. 6,000 who clicked the messages also took our surveys, which was really important. That was a really big group that we knew were traveling on that road, took the surveys. And then let's see, and we did follow up safety item mailers. So it was really, I like this part of it. So we mailed safety items to them if they gave us their address. And to me, that showed that they were real people. They were real people who took the survey, living locally along these roads. And so those were mailed to them upon request. And that was another tactic. Then maybe some of you might have gotten mailers. So we tried also this other tactic where we mailed them. It was in English and in Spanish. And so there were 3,500 sent to different neighborhoods, and they also could take the survey and receive a safety item. And this was the podcast that I tried to play. We have 2 parts, and so I really encourage you to listen to it. It's on the Center for Urban Transportation Resource website. And so first, Gina and Emma and Johnny talked about HINs. So they talked about what those were. And then Sarah Hendricks and I talked about some of those results of our project. Okay, next slide. So we had, as I told you on the prior slide, we had different surveys that were taken. And I just wanted to share a few of the response findings. So the campaign really reached an audience previously uninvolved in safety presentations. And again, these are just select ones that are in that big report that you can read anytime. Survey respondents were mainly age 55 and over. That was a big part of those specific survey findings from the second survey that we did. And that is typical of those who will answer surveys. So we do look at other ways to reach the younger audience. 62% have either taken or expressed interest in taking the FLHSMV approved defensive driving courses. We asked them questions about that. So that's kind of a fun finding. Reduced auto insurance premiums and reduced violation points off driving. Their driving record did show from their responses appeared to be an effective incentive. So that was something to think about. I mean, these findings were great, and we were surprised by a few. Most people are not offended by receiving a do not disturb text message response. So say if you are driving, have any of you ever received like that response when you text someone and it says, I'm driving, I can't respond to you? So we asked them if they might, if that was something they thought was good. And most of them said it was good, that they would like that. Not all motorists know reasons why bicyclists may take the full travel lane. So that was a question you all for bicyclists may be interested of. They didn't seem to know the reason of that. So if somebody is riding their bicycle legally and they take a full lane, the motorists were not completely sure. So that could be in one of your education campaigns you roll out. 54% correctly identified the most common crash type between a motorist and a pedestrian. And then older survey participants suggest increased law enforcement. Younger survey participants suggest more multimodal improvements to increase roadway safety. So you can see the difference in what came up as the top by age. And those were just a few of the findings. So to finish up, our conclusions and recommendations are, as you know, and we found this in the literature, behavior change takes time, right? So if you want to change someone's behavior, you're going to have to, it's going to take time, several years to roll those campaigns out. It is a good recommendation to conduct a detailed behavioral analysis so you can see really what is going on, like we did with our situation analysis. Reinforce that community engagement. We tried to get out there on, to talk to people and businesses as much as we could, so you can reinforce that community engagement. All messaging is not the same, right? So what resonates with me may not resonate with you, right? So you need to customize your messaging by your target audience and make sure that you are putting the right message out. And then also, right, you have to measure this. You have to establish clear evaluation metrics. So those are kind of our conclusions and recommendations from what we came up with on the for this project. And thanks, Gina. Those were I see those just came up. Okay. And then so this was interesting, and Gina may have a comment on it, but when we went back and looked during 2023 at just crashes and serious injuries on these chosen, the 2 county roads and 2 FDOT roads, there were no serious injuries or fatalities during 23 on any of these corridors. There was one you can see that was a fatality on Sheldon Road, and that was when the young child actually during the middle of the night had gone out of the house and was killed on Sheldon Road. But it was kind of interesting that these were the results. There were some motorist only injuries and there was one pedestrian serious injury. But you can see that was some interesting results, and we need to delve in further as to why that occurred. But that was pretty good for those being your high injury network in Hillsborough County. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact Emmett, myself, Sarah, or even Brenton, who's in your audience. You can scan that QR code to assess a draft of the full project report. I'm making some final edits, but you can go ahead and it's in a flip magazine format. You can go in there and kind of leaf through it. But it's in draft. We're making a few final edits. But I hope that you'll find this campaign interesting, and some of the results could lead to further campaigns and help you, I hope, in all of the projects that you are doing to help with our Vision Zero efforts and Target Zero efforts for FDOT. Any questions?
I have a quick question, Julie. This is Jim Shark.
Hi, Jim.
Looking at pairing Florida and Nebraska avenues. On Florida Avenue, there was 18 fatalities and 5 injuries. And on Nebraska, the ratio is reversed with fewer fatalities and a greater number of injuries. Is there an explanation for why these 2 streets, which are basically they're twins,
That is a typo, I believe. I will have to double check that, but I'm almost positive.
Never mind.
That is not correct.
Well, Brenton would know.
Yeah, that stood out to me as well. It's very, very high.
Okay. Yeah, we'll fix that typo and get back to you, Brenton. We'll fix that and get that back to you. So I apologize, but you know what? You're really looking if you caught that. I'm impressed. I don't think anyone caught it on the other last 2 presentations that were given. So we'll get that fixed in real time on the presentation link for you.
I mean, if those numbers are true, that would be the most effective public engagement campaign I've ever seen as far as your before and after crash. It's like you should kind of formalize that in some kind of before and after analysis. Because that's the 5 years and your other one is just 1. I guess, how effective was it percentage wise and reducing fatal and serious injury? That'd kind of be the last graph I'd like to see in there. Because this is like 1 year crash data.
Yeah.
Might be able to extrapolate that out to 5 years. What would it be?
Yeah, we really, recommend that this should be a longer term campaign so that we can really look at what is causing, the fatalities, because, I don't know how we can link the campaign to these results. We can link the campaign to the people that we talked to in our follow-up survey that it made a difference with them. But it's very hard to prove that the campaign caused those results. So I'd like to look more in depth in it. It's very, I think I don't know. I haven't looked to see what's going on this year again. We know those numbers can change quickly. So that was surprising to me when I looked at it and saw the numbers at the end of the campaign. So yeah, it's something that's pretty great. I think that we're seeing some of these trends happen on other streets too.
I will say, as someone who read every single crash report, it's very difficult to trend these crashes because it's 1 or 2 mile stretches of roadway and, over a limited period of time. And so, as you know, there's all sorts of different factors that cause crashes. And, it's very interesting that the only fatality was one that was such a outlying incident, like something like that almost never happens where a small child gets out of an apartment and wanders into a roadway. And so to not have any fatalities on all these roads, which were classified as, fatal and high injury networks, is definitely striking.
Yeah, and I would have to say that on some of those roads, and I know Abigail can talk about this, that there were some really great infrastructure improvements made, like 15th Street. So they had a really great project on 15th Street, where they added quite a few raised pedestrian crossings, and I think that took the speed down. And then Sheldon Road has had some different infrastructure enhancements that were going on at the same time. And so, we know the infrastructure makes a huge difference in these crashes. And I'd have to say that some of those infrastructure projects that were going on at the same time probably made a big difference too.
Do you do that lead in to Abigail's presentation on purpose?
Yes. I think so. So you'll have a link to the full report. And again, thank you so much for having us present this. And it's something to really think about, though, if you look at what a mix of this infrastructure and education can do and awareness. Also in the report, I'll just make one last mention. We did look at branding. We did a brand survey. So we looked at the Target Zero, the Walk, Bike, Drive that we used, and the Vision Zero. So if you look in that report, there is a lot of room to do awareness of the campaigns, because that's also really important, just to create that awareness at the beginning if you're going to have, a great, like Target Zero and Vision Zero going on. So that's in the report also if you're interested in brand awareness.
All right, yeah, thank you so much for that presentation. That's a very encouraging outcome for an education campaign.
Thank you.
Okay, Abigail, I guess we've got 20 minutes for you. Hopefully that's enough.
Let's do it. Ready? I know you guys are awake. Let's go. Should we do get up and stretch for a minute? Yeah,
Good.
for me.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
In with the good air, out with the bad air.
Yep.
Good evening, BPAC. Thanks for hanging on. My name is Abigail Flores. I'm the program manager of safety and mobility for Hillsborough County. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about Hillsborough County's multimodal goals, our safety approach, our 5-year bike and ped crash trends, and the Tarpon Springs Road Bike project that we are currently in project development for. So Hillsborough County's multimodal goals includes eliminating fatal and severe crashes. We do this by reducing posted speeds and separating vulnerable roadway users like bike and peds in space and time. We also support alternatives to driving through filling gaps in the sidewalk network and improving bicycle facilities. We prioritize transportation infrastructure where it's needed most, and that looks like on high crash locations in underserved communities and to provide access to destinations where bikers want to go. We have a tiered approach to project implementation, with a tier 1 getting something in the ground very quickly and a tier 2, a more robust design that follows the tier 1. Here we have our safety approach, and in the top left, we have the hierarchy of effectiveness that we follow, where we start with operating traffic signals to reduce conflicts. That looks like providing our lead pedestrian intervals where the pedestrian gets out into the intersection to cross before the drivers get to green light. Also looks like right turn on red blank out signs that are actually actuated when the ped or the bike hits the ped push button that prohibits right turning at that time. And separating users in space, like these examples here of the Hillsborough County roadway facilities. We'll start at the bottom left. You have the road markings with signage on lower volume and lower speed roads. In the middle, you have the buffered bike lane, like we have on Bell Shoals. And next is the green bike lanes and the bike boxes where we have on higher volume roadways, so bicyclists can make a left or get in front of the car line. And on the right, we have the separated bike lanes as shown on Bruce B. Downs. And finally, in the top right, the shared use path providing access to Flatwoods Trail Park on Bears Avenue. Some of the tier 1 components of the project, a typical tier 1 project for bikes, are listed here, where we reduce the posted speed limit. We add green paint to bike lanes and at conflict markings. We add signage, like bike crossing signage and share the road. We add LPIs, lead pedestrian intervals, and delineators at the intersections to slow drivers when they're making a right turn and a left turn. The tier 2, the more robust project, follows the tier 1. Again, we're reducing the posted speed limit further. We're providing buffered bike lanes or separated bike lanes or shared use path. So we're upgrading the existing bicycle facility in the tier 2. We're providing intersection ped refuge so bike and peds can do the 2-stage crossing at intersections and mid-block crossings. Let's talk about our 5-year fatal and severe crash trends for roadway users. In the top, the blue line is for all roadway users, the fatal and severes, and we see over the last 5 years for Hillsborough County, it's trending downward, which is a great sign. However, when we dig deeper into the numbers, we see that it's the vehicle, the driver crashes that are going down, right? And if we look at the bicycle crashes over the last 5 years, which is the yellow bar, you can see that it's pretty much steadily at 50 a year, which is unacceptable. We need to improve that. And if we look at the pedestrian fatal and severes each year, that's the gray bar, and that was just at 100 and has been increasing over the last 3 years, which is 100% unacceptable. Ped and bike actually make up the number two top fatal and severe crash type in Hillsborough County. Shown on the right is the comparison of ped and bike fatal and severes by posted speed limit, and I've highlighted in the red the 30 miles an hour, which makes up less than 5% of Hillsborough County's roadway network, yet it makes up 15% of our ped and bike fatal crashes, as shown by the light blue is the ped and bike fatal and severes, and the dark blue is the percentage of roadway network at that speed. Continuing on, it's interesting when we look at the intersection versus mid-block crashes for vulnerable roadway users. For the pedestrian, about 50% of fatal and severes occur at mid-block and about 50% at intersections, and that includes signalized and unsignalized. However, when we dig deeper, we see that over 50% of these mid-block crashes for peds occur at a distance of greater than 500 feet from a marked crosswalk. So that tells us that there's a lack of crossing opportunities. Additionally, for the bicycle, we see that nearly 75% of the fatal and severes for bikes occur at intersections. That means that signal timing needs to be improved to make it safe for bikes to be there. And at unsignalized intersection, we need to provide safe crossings and inform drivers that bikes are crossing here. The daytime versus nighttime is the top right. And we see a national trend continued here in Hillsborough County is that most pedestrian fatal and severes occur at night, with 71% in Hillsborough County. Contrastly, you have the bicycles where 65% of their fatal and severes are occurring during the daytime. And our 5-year crash rolling year average is shown here for non-motorized users. And you can see the trend continues to be up, where in the last 9 years, we've increased by over 7% in fatal and severes for vulnerable roadway users. So what's Hillsborough County response? Well, we have this bicycle network safety program where we have taken all of the roads in Hillsborough County, except for the locals, and we've ranked them by risk, exposure, and network quality for bicyclists. The map shows that the red are the highest ranked, which means they need to be priority. And the yellow is the moderate ranked, and the green is the lower ranked. Now, we use this map to identify projects. Hillsborough County is committed, and it's in the annual budget that we're looking at bike projects, and we're building infrastructure for bike safety and access. The project phases include project development, which we're currently in for Tarpon Springs Road, and then we follow by a tier 1 project, and then followed with a tier 2 project. Tarpon Springs is pictured on the map in the top left, the blue line there. We have a Tarpon Springs typology. Hillsborough County is one of the few local agencies in the nation that have a complete streets guide that we use to inform our decisions here on what our streets should look like. Now, Tarpon Springs from Pinellas or the county line to Gun Highway is shown here. It's a rural neighborhood context. And the targets for this type of street, which means where we want the street to be eventually, is 35 miles an hour and 11-foot lanes and a shared use path. Currently, the existing conditions for Tarpon Springs look like this. The segment we're looking at is 4.5 miles long. It's 45 mile an hour posted speed. It's a 2-lane, undivided, 12-foot lanes, minor arterial, 9,000 average annual daily traffic with less than 8% truck volume. It currently has 4-foot bike lanes on each side, no sidewalks. So you remember the typology says we should have a shared use path, we should have 11-foot lanes, and the speed limit should be 35 miles an hour. So we're not there yet. And there was historically over the last 5 years, 3 bike crashes with 1 severe. As shown here, the severe was in the top right at Hillstone Drive. This is a connection to the Tri-County Trail and is on our greenways, trails, and bicycle master plan, as mentioned, referred to earlier. The pictures below show that bicyclists have to pass through a narrow bridge, that there is horizontal curves on Tarpon Springs, that the trailhead could be improved and marked, and that the pavement condition is in poor condition with wide minor street crossings, which could explain why we're seeing those crashes at the minor streets on this map. The tier 1 improvements that we are currently studying include reducing the posted speed limit from 45 to 40, adding green paint across minor streets, adding bike lane and bike price crossing signage, adding reflective pavement markings on edge line at curves so that drivers stay in their lane and not in the bike lane. These improvements would take the bike level of service from E to a D. So the bike level of service of an E is the poorest service you can have on the scale. So this would take it to the next level of improvement to a D. Tier 2 improvements that we're currently studying that would be implemented possibly after the tier 1 project include an additional reduction in the posted speed limit from 40 to 35, lane narrowing to accommodate buffered bike lanes, removing the passing lane. We don't want any speeding or jogging on this roadway. Installing speed feedback signs to inform drivers of their speed. Installing flashing beacons at the narrow bridge approach, informing drivers that they're now sharing the road on this narrow section and need to reduce their speed, as well as adding reflective pavement markers on the edge line throughout the 4.5 mile corridor, and improved trailhead connection at the Tri-County Trail. This would move the bike level of service from a D to a B, which is the second best on the scale. In summary, this is a great project. It is in response to several resident requests. It improves the bike level of service from an E to a B. It supports access for vulnerable roadway users. It addresses the crashes. It's in line with the long-range transportation plan objectives of Vision Zero and alternatives to driving. And it implements the tiered approach where we get something in the ground quickly for safety. Thanks for your time. I'll take any questions.
Do you have to do any pavement widening to, get the buffer bike lane in there?
Yeah, not at this time. That's a good question. So this would be a retrofit. So we use low-cost materials with the tier 1. So we would reduce the lane width with an edge line, an extra stripe there, and then we'd have a buffered bike lane. The next step from the tier 2 would be to move on and look for resurfacing so we can widen the shoulder and then provide an even better facility. It's currently in the Greenways and Trails Master Plan as a desired trail. So that's also an unfunded portion of this project. This one's.
What criteria did you use to rank your roadways from high, medium, low?
That's a great question. So we looked at risk to bicyclists. So that included historical crashes, posted speed limit, volume. And then exposure was, well, does this provide a connection? Is it desirable? What are the land uses? Would they want to use it? Would it bring bicyclists to this location? And then finally was network, saying, hey, is this going to complete a gap or is it just going to complete an isolated segment? So it's more desirable to infill the gaps.
So it sounds like you could go from a, say, 12-foot lane to 11-foot or 10-foot lanes.
We want to go to, we're studying the feasibility of a 10-foot lane. So we would be even better than our target here for 11 foot.
Right. So you'd be able to have a 2-foot buffer, 4-foot bike lane, and then would you put anything in that 2-foot buffer space? I know the city of Tampa just had a project on 30th Street where we kind of went back and forth on what we wanted to do, and we had originally like 6 feet for bicycle space. So we went with the 2-foot buffer with the 4-foot bike lane. There is a gutter pan as well, so it adds a little bit of space. And then we put in like those kind of like armadillo kind of bike lane separators in that 2-foot space. So
yeah,
that's one thing we did. So I was wondering if you guys would be able to do something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's currently a 4-foot bike lane, and we're going to get a 1-foot buffer because if we reduce, oh, it's a 2-foot buffer, like you're saying, 4-foot with a 2-foot buffer. So there, we are looking at what it would to put some delineators in there to keep the drivers out of there, like we've seen. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
So how does the county, how do you determine when you will start implementing these tier 1 and tier 2?
So we'll finish up project development this year and move into the design of the tier 1 next year. And then the following year, we implement the tier 1. And then the following year, we design with the tier 2.
And for all high priorities that we study, or is a project's coming up and it's a high priority, then you. So.
Yeah, we're currently studying Causeway, Shell Point, and Tarpon Springs. So each year the county studies a few corridors and then they move down the line to implementation.
That sounds like a great program. Sounds like you guys have like a project pipeline set up of studying and like a follow-up implementation. Are you using contractors for all that implementation?
For the construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually going out to bid for these at the moment, but we, are looking into how to make it more efficient so we can crank them out.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
How far is that from the Pinellas Trail when you hit the county line? It is right at the Tri-County Trail. You see it right there in the top left? So the beginning of my project in the west is at the Tri-County Trail head.
That's this project is exactly what we were talking about as far as having the different governmental agencies lower the stress of the bicycle facilities out there. So apologies for that. It sounds like, yeah, you've got a good project and a good pipeline for similar projects too. So,
Thanks, appreciate your time.
all right, well, thank you, Abigail. So that's it. We're right at time here as well. Well, I just want to put it out one more time. Does anyone have any other comments or questions for Abigail? 1 minute. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting and see everyone back here in October.
Lisa may have wanted to share something.
Oh.
Exactly. Lisa, are you on live?
I don't see her.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about it then. I'll send that
Actually, you should have, is, if it's not an addendum, do we have the flyers available in the lobby, Ben?
Let me check.
Because registration is filling up and this is the audience right here.
Yeah,
February, I think February, is this the October 9th event?
Yeah.
It's the Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit registration, but also the whole thing has been kind of upgraded to Safe Streets Week.
yes, that's about it. Everyone.
Yes, that'd be cool. I think we'll be good.
I think we're good.
Yeah, yeah, I'll play both sides.
The fire.
Yeah, I bought my ticket already.
I'll be there.
I'm not gonna.
At the truck.
Have them online. They have their own system.
I haven't signed a reading event, but I'm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure which one's. All right, well,
This is also on our website too, so you can always go there for more information. And I did want to remind you, or did want to say that registration is filling up, so there's not too many spaces left.
yeah, I've already heard that John, I, and Jim have all signed up already, so.
I need to.
Oh, you too, okay. Okay. So, all right, I'm good, Ben.
Good, yeah.
Gail. All right, so we'll adjourn the meeting, so.
Thank you.
7:30.
7:30. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Possible.